Alright, so this time around, I'm going to be demonstrating how the notes kind of transpose onto the violin itself. So previously I've mentioned in the videos that there's four main strings, the G, D, A, and E. And assuming that you know your notes and whatnot, you know that these fall into intervals. So if I'm playing G, the next note that follows in suit is A, B, C, and then D. And D is right next to G. So G and D. And within each, you have three notes in between each interval until you get to the next string crossing. And within these, you can also play flats or sharps and whatnot, and you can transpose that into actual music like and such. But you need to know your actual notes for that. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate that in here. So if we're just sticking to the basic beginning patterns, we're going to be able to play the most simple scale. That was a basic G one where you start on the G and you end back on G. The thing that happened in the end was basically a it's kind of an end to a scale. You kind of just do that, to kind of shift around. And you want to also know how to read the music. So I'm not really going to go into full detail on how to, actually read the music. You kind of have to do that on your own time. But essentially, the violin, it's going to be on a treble scale or on a treble clef, meaning it's got a higher clef to it, as opposed to if you were trying to play cello, which has a deeper tone, you're going to be on bass clef. And viola, it's going to be right in between the treble and the bass, so it's right in the middle where you shift from up and down. And just in orchestral arrangements, not even all string instruments, this is one of those instruments that really just stick to one of its own specialties. Like on a piano, you can play both treble and clef in coordination with left and right. But on the violin, you want to have coordination between your left hand, where you're actually playing, and your actual coordination with your bow movements. So you have to kind of synchronize with the left and the right. Each note that you play has to match with the bow stroke that you're going with. Up bow and down bow. And there's different bow styles and techniques. So if I'm playing legato, it's kind of connected notes. So you see how those are connected? Whereas if you're trying to play kind of a faster piece and there's staccato notes in it, you want to kind of pop it. And that gives it more of a kind of popcorn kind of feel to it. And that lets you play music a lot faster as opposed to the legato. Those are kind of for more slow pieces. But either way, you're trying to train your left and right hand into coordinating with each other. And the notes really transpose on the actual music onto the sheet. Really, it's really determined with your left hand. Your right hand is nothing more than actual movement and speed. You can play the notes on here, but this is really what makes the sound. I mean, if you're trying to pluck, of course you can do that, but it's still the right hand, or the right thumb in this case, that's controlling the actual sound. You have to synchronize with the actual placement of your fingers on the left hand in order to actually move your right bow or your right hand. And you want to keep that in mind when you're practicing. You have to practice a lot to get that kind of solidified. And this I do kind of recommend why you should get a private teacher, not learn online, because violin is a hands-on instrument. All instruments are in this case. But the violin, in my opinion, after playing a couple instruments, guitar, piano, and all that, the violin is definitely one of the trickiest. And if you have background in music, if you've ever played such as like guitar, violin, any instrument, you should be able to come along that process a lot faster as opposed to if you've never played an instrument. If you have musical experience, you'll be able to handle a new instrument a lot better. And it's really just memory retention with everything. You want to be able to practice before actually being able to play the notes. So everything that I've said in the past, you want to have the right bow position, you want to be able to have the right finger positions. Finger tapes are very crucial. You'll be able to use your eyes to see and match which notes your fingers are playing. And you'll also want to be watching the bow at the same time. So it's kind of tricky, but once you get to that state, you can play an instrument without looking at it. And it all comes down to practice. The more dedicated you are, the faster you'll be able to come along with it. So it's really all about whether you're motivated or not. And if you are serious about it, I would recommend getting a private instructor and whatnot to be able to teach you the basics and whatnot. And that's really it about this, about it in this video. Just be able to remember that notes correlate within 3 intervals. So if I'm going from D to A, and then once I use these 3 notes, E, F, and G, I get to A. And then same goes for A to E. Same idea. And each note can be played flat or sharp just by moving it down or up a bit. So let's say I was playing E, right? I can make that flat by just moving my finger down a bit. Or I can make it sharp by moving my finger up. And that's really all it is to it. It's just knowing where your fingers land on the actual fingerboard and how you're going to be able to match that with the synchronization of your right hand.